Love and light, brothers and sisters. So, I've talked about Mandela effects before in a couple of videos, some of the ones that I've noticed personally and some of the other ones that the general public was talking about. But I would like to talk about them again, and I want to encourage everyone to revisit the subject, even if you think you already know about Mandela effects and you've heard about them. Revisit the subject because there have been new ones constantly. They're always happening, and recently, the either the awareness of them happening has increased to the extent that people are cataloging them and noticing them so much more, or the dimensional shifts and timeline shifts and mergers are happening faster, or both. So this uptick in Mandela effects, and it is significant. Some of the Mandela effects that have already been noticed have further changed numerous times. So there are now multiple shifts that have happened over, like, in one topic, one historical detail. So it is my belief and understanding that this uptick in dimensional shifts and mergers is a sign that we are closer to a large mass wave of ascension. The first Mandela effect to talk about, obviously, is the one named after Nelson Mandela, and that is that many people remember him dying in prison in the 80s, not getting out, becoming president of South Africa, and dying in 2013, as Google, currently says he did. So if in fact this isn't just, error on the memories of many people, it's likely a shift from a darker timeline prior 1986 harmonic convergence. Okay, so next we have the fact that the cartoon Looney Tunes from Warner Brothers, many people, including me, remember it being spelled Toons, like cartoons. But currently, the history books say, and the cartoons, even if you look at them today, say Tunes, so as in a musical tune. Now, some people have thought it was a conspiracy or something, like did Warner Brothers change them all to make it seem this way, or do this many people really remember it wrong? And I believe there are some other videos that still show it the other way, but people said those were produced after the fact. I want to highlight something that I have found to be a common thread through them, that when you observe these type of effects where people remember it this way and it's not that way anymore, and the history books don't say that, and Google doesn't say that, and none of the actual cartoons say that today, but the first one makes more sense. Toons makes more sense, and that's a common theme through these Mandela effects, that the more obvious, intuitive, rational answer is the one that's not there anymore. It's the one that is being rewritten. Now the skeptics would say that that's because our brain is looking for the obvious one. And again, I remember visually seeing this numerous times, and I watched Looney Tunes quite a bit as a child, and I can specifically see it that way. So I was gonna say, so to me, this whole thing that the intuitive answer is the one that's not, that supposedly has been changed and erased from history, and now we have this new one that is less rational or makes less sense, and all the pieces don't truly fit together a lot of times, and some of that is because we are merging timelines and merging these divergent perspectives. I also think it is that spirit and source and the higher realms and our higher selves and our soul selves are giving us hints and clues, and they often do that kind of in a tongue-in-cheek manner, like kind of humorous, but a little bit poking fun at you kind of manner. That's often how Spirit seems to teach lessons. So. All right, next we have Jiffy peanut butter. How many people remember Jiffy peanut butter? Well, apparently it never existed. There's only Jif and Skip. There never was a Jiffy. But I remember seeing the Jiffy too. Now, of course, a really big one is the Berenstain Bears one. And I posted on Facebook a video that I got from Slapped Ham. And I will post it, I'll put it up here, where a man is literally stepping in and out of one room into another room and then back and forth, and the Berenstain Bears, he's holding a book and it's changing from being spelled E-I-N to A-I-N, E-I-N to A-I-N, because, and here again, and I'll show you that one, because of course it could be photoshopped, it could be fake, you know, it looks real, but you never know with video. There's no way to ever be certain from a video. But again, this highlights what I was saying, that the intuitive one is the one we remember, and the current one is counterintuitive, because the way it's spelled is Berenstain, and no one has ever said, let's watch the Berenstain Bears. No, they said Berenstein. So why is it not spelled that way? Because we are living in a different dimension. And again, I'm going to remind you all that towards the end I'll get to some of the newer ones and the ones that have changed drastically, because again, there have been numerous ones added on recently within the last year, big ones. So how many of you remember the show Sex and the City? Well, apparently we can't remember that because it never existed. It was called Sex and the City. It was not in the dimension I grew up in. And again, here's another counterintuitive one that seems to be a message from Spirit to me. Oscar Mayer Wieners. Now we all remember hearing the songs, watching the commercials, Oscar Mayer. But today it's spelled Oscar Mayer, M-A-Y-E-R, and you cannot pronounce Mayer that way. And it was not Oscar Mayer. It was not Oscar Mayer Wieners. No sir, no ma'am. All right, so the next one I want to talk about is a new one. As far as I know, it didn't. This shift didn't happen until 2022. Now, of course, that's an interesting point too, because the history books say it's always been this way. You know, that there was never a shift. But how I understand this all myself is that our ego, again, extends into the fourth dimension. And this is how we're able to carry information from life to life and into the dream state. So much of our beliefs and memory is being held outside of one particular timeline, and we are actually getting multi-dimensional information and multi-time stream, multiple timelines. We're getting all that information streaming into the fourth and then up into the higher dimensions. So what that means is that collectively, as one collective and all the smaller collectives of people who share vibration and stories and interactions. Just for example, like the Jewish people, or share a similar outlook and perspective on life enough that they have kind of a collective conscious amongst them. Well, within that group and collective, they can have memories and beliefs held outside of the timeline, so that even if the timeline shifts, for example, if right now all of us, me and anyone who's listening to my videos, for example, if all of us tomorrow shifted into a world where JFK died, not when we remember, not from assassination, but say just last year from old age, okay? First of all, many of us wouldn't even know this right away, and we would carry that memory forward and that belief forward that JFK had been assassinated, even though all the others in the world that we had shifted into and the timeline that we had merged into, those collectives will have the memory of JFK living on. So that's what's happening here with the Mandela effects, and that's why people aren't even agreeing on a lot of them. Like, we have groups that remember it this way, groups that remember it this way. These are just different collectives coming together all into one, but so many of them happening now all the time shows me that they're all collapsing really down, eventually down into one, you know. All right, so the Mandela effect comes from the Bible, and it's verse, it is Exodus 34:14. Do not worship any other God, for the Lord, whose name is blank, is a jealous God. So what do you remember there? Well, most people probably would say Yahweh or Jehovah, or the symbol they put there sometimes, or tetragrammaton, or there was a couple different names that have been used there, but never had I heard jealous. And now apparently this is the original Hebrew translation, and this is what all the versions say currently today. Do not worship any other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Or the New Living Translation, you must worship no other gods, for the Lord, whose very name is jealous, is a God who is jealous about his relationship with you. So again, here that we're to accept this nonsense, this completely counterintuitive phrase, as if that was what the Bible always said. Not that there's not a bunch of nonsensical things and statements in the Bible, but that... Alright, another Mandela effect we've just noticed is the water Pure Life now is spelled P-U-R-E. Originally it was spelled P-U-R, or in the universe me and Christine were in, it was spelled P-U-R, because we even joked about it, you know, that it sounded like a cat, it's purr. You know, so how many of you remember Pure Life? Another really interesting Mandela effect, which I saw on the channel All Time, and he presented it really well, which apparently has updated itself as these timelines collapse into each other, which is, I believe, which is happening. All the timelines are merging into one. You know, I believe that is exactly what's happening now. But this was about the drink Hypnotic. First of all, the spelling has changed from, I remember it being spelled Hypnotic, and that's how most people, everyone I know, remembers it being spelled. Now it's spelled HPNOT, which if you look at it without the Y, it looks almost like Russian letters, like a Russian word or something. I would have noticed that for sure. And the bottle, apparently the original Hypnotic sparkled. Now this is an interesting one, because in the presenter's universe, he remembers the original Hypnotic sparkling. and now it doesn't. And then he found references to hypnotic being a sparkly drink in other posts, which is usually a sign of these Mandela effects. When a few, outlying facts or like examinations, for instance, when a biography about someone matches the old timeline, the way people remember, but the person themselves who the biography is about has changed, you know. So this is usually a sign of Mandela effects, that where the ripples haven't completely filtered out. Yeah, so originally it was remembered to be a sparkly drink, but I don't remember it being sparkly originally, just blue, you know, the way it is now, So apparently me and him were in different universes, but our universe, the spelling was the same, but now we've moved to a universe where the spelling is completely different, And I keep saying universe. I should say reality or timeline, because we're not actually leaving the universe. We're not changing universes. We're changing realities. We're changing timelines, frequencies. I'll try to explain how the mechanics of exactly how I see this is happening. Okay. So remember, I've explained this in other videos where I see the third dimension as just a densified portion of the fourth dimension, you know? So it's basically the time sequence and the history being the way it is, where we can all agree that, World War II happened at this time and this happened at this time. This is really a story being upheld within the fourth dimensional egos of the souls participating in this experience. So there are lots of souls playing in the Earth experience. Some of them are playing in different timelines with different possibilities. Out of choice, out of their own free will choice, they have diverged and played different possible paths. So to me, what makes, like, if you look at, for instance, where we go when we dream, right? We don't actually go to a different place, but because the astral body is less bound to this particular third dimensional region within the astral, because again, this is a densified portion of the astral, then it is free to go to the less dense portions, the freer portions, where it can move around freely and change form, as it sees fit. And this is off when I have had lucid dreams. I've been able to change my shape, turn into a bird, turn into a fish, swim in the water. Yeah, it's amazing. So in one timeline, in each timeline, the amount of souls contributing to that experience and that belief and that, the belief in that memory, which projects that future, basically, that story, is how real it is, and they all affect each other, though. They're all affecting each other. So let's say, for example, like a Christ being born in one timeline will perhaps collapse a negative timeline somewhere else, because several of the souls will move into this timeline, becoming more interested in this possibility. You understand?